It's Happy Hour again from Uptown New Orleans. Hello, I'm Grant Morris. Happy Hour is part of the family of shows on the podcast network. It's neworleans.com. When you walk into a bar in New Orleans and you pull up a bar stool, you never know who's going to be sitting on either side of you. What you do know is no matter what they look like, what they're wearing, whether they just got out of a limousine or just got out of jail, they're going to be happy to talk to you, because that's New Orleans and this is Happy Hour, a cocktail-fueled 60 minutes of random conversation with folks who have nothing in common, other than we're all New Orleanians in a bar. Today we're at the fabulous Wayfare on Feufollet Street, where they put fine dining into a sandwich. And that's absolutely correct, right, Andrew? I didn't fuck that up at all.
I mean, you said it slower than you usually say.
I tried to slow it down.
It's feeling kind of unnatural lately.
Because I'm not, because we've changed the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a different setup here, and they've changed.
It's working.
It seems to be working. The place is pretty busy, except there's no one in here right now except us.
Well, yeah. That's why they have us right now.
Yeah, that's why they let us come in here and take up
happy hour
tables. Yeah. Anyway, they put fine dining into a sandwich and fine booze into a glass, and they have a 3-hour happy hour here every day from 4 to 7, and an awesome brunch on the weekends. And I'm not making any of this bullshit up. It is actually true. The food is awesome.
The brunch is ridiculously good.
It is really good. And the cheap drinks are even cheaper than you think. The drinks are great, actually. They're good booze, and it's a good price.
It's a great bar.
Okay, so thanks for joining us. That was Happy Hour for another week. We'll be right... Oh, no, hang on. My guests sitting around the table here are numerous and fabulous. Across from me is a woman whose name is just Moon. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why do you end up with a one-word name?
It was given to me by my parents. My grandfather's name was Moon, and so I...
Your grandfather's name was... He just had one word too, like Cher.
Well, no, he had the last name too, but it's like when someone calls you by your last name instead of your first name, I don't usually go by my first name.
So your last name is Moon?
It's my middle name.
It's your middle name? Ah.
Yeah, so I go by my middle name.
I go by my middle name as well.
This is Phillipe.
Yeah.
Whose middle name is Phillipe.
Phillipe, that's right.
And his last name is, I'm going to see if I can read it.
Oh, go ahead.
Billeaudeaux.
That's right.
How's that? From a band called Feufollet.
That's correct.
In Lafayette, Louisiana.
That is correct.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good, eh?
Very
I recognized you. And what are you doing in New Orleans?
I just moved here just because.
How long ago?
About 6 months ago.
Now what's going to happen to the band, which is one of the
we're still very
Cajun
busy.
lands.
I'm just having to drive 2 hours, most weekends to go play,
Why would you want to do that?
Because New Orleans is the best city in the world. And it's
well,
so
you don't
close.
hear many people from Lafayette say that, do you?
Well, I love Lafayette as well, but being there my whole life, it was time for something new. And
right.
Fortunately, New Orleans is just right down the road.
What's the diff between living there and here?
It's very different. I mean, it's a lot bigger, There are a lot of similarities. I mean, the people are kind of the same in that, everybody's pretty friendly. You're driving down the street and a stranger on the side of the road is going to wave to you. Same thing in Lafayette. The food is almost the same.
Right.
The music's pretty different. I mean, Lafayette's a little more country. It's definitely has a lot more kind of Acadian French influence. Older people still speak French, and the music's still in French and all that. People couple dance, and when you go out to a show, if you don't really make people dance at a show, you don't do too well in Lafayette.
Right. Well, here would be different, right, Andrew?
Well, it depends on where you're playing, I guess.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's true.
There's so many more venues here, though, too. I mean, back home, it's pretty much just dance halls,
Really? There's no, what about those places like Atmosphere?
Yeah, Artmosphere would be
the
Blue Moon is definitely like a party kind of venue. Artmosphere, you can get away with a lot of different things there, But for the most part,
you have to make people dance.
I mean, that's what people want to do on the weekends, It's,
right.
During the week, music doesn't do too well because everybody's working, and it's just that's
quite different from New Orleans because nobody's working during the week here. I can tell you that for a fact. Sarah Quintana joins us again.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Nice to have you back.
Thank you. I wanted to compliment you on your new glasses.
Yeah, thank you very much. They're
really
nice, aren't they?
Cute.
Yeah, they're not exactly new actually, but there's a strange story how I got these. I didn't buy them. Somebody gave them to me, believe it or not. Because I lost my glasses, and someone gave me these to wear for a day till I found my real glasses, which I never found, and now I have these stupid glasses.
I like the
that look like an old lady and bought them at Walmart.
I like them. It's like purple, geometric.
Yeah, it's cute.
Mosaic.
They're cute. Yeah, I don't know. People often mention them, but I think it's like when you have a really terrible haircut or you're really overweight and people feel like compelled to say something.
But I actually really like them.
Yeah, if you own it, I think Don't turn them down. They're
Don't-
very nice.
just-
I'm into it.
Just go with it. Tommy Waller is here as well. Tommy, what do you think of my
I am.
glasses?
Well, it wouldn't be the ones that I would pick out, but that's just mostly because
Thank you.
because I don't
Not
need
me
glasses.
neither.
Yeah, it's just,
You don't even need glasses.
that's why I wouldn't pick those out.
Weren't you a U.S. Marine?
So they in fact
So you
I
have
just
to
had
have
a-
20/20?
I just had an eyeball check just this past weekend. Yeah, our physicals, and it was still 20/20, thankfully.
Wow, pretty
Yeah.
good.
So if you
Well,
wear
it's
wear
good enough.
glasses in the Marines though, do they still have those thick brown ones that you rock, or and then those?
Oh,
are
they
you-
definitely issue those for sure.
Those are,
yeah,
you
they
know,
call
but those
them,
are getting pretty hip.
They call them BCG glasses, so
Okay.
birth control glasses. is what they call them.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah.
so
Can you actually get free BCG glasses just by being a U.S. Marine and having bad eyesight?
that's right. Yeah. In fact, our tax dollars would pay for that. Yeah, it would be an entitlement. As
And
one
what
would
happens
say.
when you have to shoot somebody or something?
Well, so
Don't your glasses get all fogged up?
on a serious note, thankfully nowadays
Oh, I was being serious.
there's there's the ability to put prescription in ballistic eyewear. So
Well, I think we're going to have to slow down there.
Yeah,
Put
so-
prescription in ballistic eyewear.
yeah, that's right.
What is ballistic eyewear exactly?
So it's just the stuff that protects your eyes, from shrapnel, from anything like
Oh,
that.
like
So
Bulletproof glasses?
I wouldn't say bulletproof. Yeah, but
Pretty close. Shrapnel proof.
so it just depends on what bullet you're talking about.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So Moon's shaking her head. She knows what I'm talking about.
I
You know.
kind of just a
She's,
little bit. I can imagine.
She's an army wife, right? So
Yes.
What, you're an army wife, did you say?
I am.
Hey,
I
you
am
guys
an
haven't
army wife.
wasted any time knowing
No.
a little
No.
bit about each other.
No, that's right.
Tommy,
Hey,
tell me something about Moon's husband.
well, it's Veterans Day, right?
It
so,
is.
It is
so
Veterans
we're
Day when
we're
recording
sharing,
this. Yeah.
We're just sharing Veterans Day wishes. Her husband has been a crew chief in the Army, right, on the Black Hawk.
Yep, on the Blackhawks.
So he's one of the guys who I would be routinely very, very happy to see.
Why would
Because
it be?
generally,
'Cause
when
he's
you
handsome?
hear, hey, well, that could also be the case.
That is true.
Which is probably I haven't seen him, but probably
Is that
true.
what attracted you to him first, Moon? 'Cause
Just
he-
his looks.
Was it his
Yeah.
uniform?
Not at the time, not the uniform, just the looks.
Where were
He's
you?
sensitive about it, but it's true.
He's sensitive about his looks.
Well, he's sensitive that I like him only for his looks.
Because you're
but
shallow
he's-
like that.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And where did you meet him?
We met when we were like 16, pretty young.
So that was ages ago then.
Ages ago. I'm 25 now, so,
So that was
9 years, long
20
time
Oh,
ago.
only 9. So you've been together for that whole time?
No, we started dating when I was about 19, and we've been together for about 7 years now.
That's a long
Am I
time.
so bad
From
at math?
19.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got married when I was 21. He was getting deployed, so we were like, this would be a great idea. Let's get married before you get deployed.
That is a
We
good
did that.
idea.
It was
In
great.
case he gets killed, then you get the
That's exactly
get the benefits.
$200,000.
Yeah, it's 100,000.
200,000.
200.
Not worth
Even
it.
if you've only been married for 5 minutes before he takes off.
I think so. I think a lot
And
of
he's
people
a
have
crew
been known
chief
to
on a
do
Black
that.
Hawk, so there's a pretty good chance you could have got $200,000.
It was a good chance, but I didn't. In the end, it didn't work out, and he's home and alive and safe. So
I guess that's better.
yeah, it's better. It's good.
And how long ago was he? Where was he exactly?
He was in Egypt for for a year. He got home in January.
In Egypt. What did he bring you back?
Some really awesome perfume, like
Really? What's it called?
handmade oils. It was like a natural from a woman there. So it was in like a kind of Egyptian little vial, and it smells really, really nice. It's from certain flowers there. It didn't have a label.
So somebody made it like on
Mm-hmm.
the street or something.
I think so.
That's a really good present.
It was a really good present. It
Yeah.
smells amazing.
Yeah.
I think you should always come home with a present.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And always have something baking in the kitchen.
Like,
You got to bring the presents home.
Well, Sarah, you spend a lot of time overseas. You have
I
like a
do.
parallel life in France where
I
you're.
do. I'm about to go back on Tuesday and do a 9-show tour. Be over there for 3 weeks in Paris, Marseille, Angers, Toulon.
Wow.
Wow.
It'll be fun.
So you have a whole. Do you speak fluent French as well?
Oui. So does Philippe.
Philippe, you speak real French, not Cajun French, actual French.
The Cajun French is.
Well, I know. I
But
know
yeah.
that's a terrible insult. I realize that, but it
But
isn't
no, yeah,
really. though.
But both, it's just different. It's older French, you
Right.
know, that's kind of developed in Louisiana for the past 250 years or 300 years.
So do actual French people understand it exactly?
Yeah, but I mean, I grew up in school learning French, so I don't speak as well as she does. When I'm in France, they think I'm Romanian, you know. I mean, like she sounds Parisian, you know, which is
Right.
I have a pretty strange accent when I speak French.
How often
but-
do you go to France? You go on tour? Or
I was there earlier this earlier this summer.
What do
We
the
did
French
it.
think of French Acadian music?
Oh, they
do
love
they think
it.
it's quaint and weird, or
They do. I mean, they think it's kind of cute, but some people really enjoy it, and they think they kind of look at it the way, I don't know, maybe like they also look at the blues or something like that. It's kind of their version of
It's like
American
roots
roots. Yeah, this weird roots music, or kind of how people look at Appalachian music.
right?
Same kind
Has
of
it
thing.
been preserved? The Cajun music as we know it, has it been preserved from a long, long time ago exactly the same, or has it evolved into our own?
Oh, it's definitely
Louisiana
evolved, and
thing?
it's definitely its own thing. But a lot of there are songs that do, have roots in France and Canada and even Haiti. I mean,
Wow. What
yeah.
are the classic Cajun songs? Are they the ones we know, like Jolie Blanc? and-
Yeah, Jolie Blanc, without a doubt.
Are they the classic ones there too? The same.
No, I mean it's not the
That's what I
music.
mean over
is,
there. Do they know? Are there French people who know a Cajun song?
Sure,
Like
I mean
we would all know.
there's Cajun bands in France. There's Cajun bands in Germany and
Right. Most
England.
of them are pretty bad.
Yeah, they're not too good. No, but they do have some of the English guys are really, really good.
Are they really?
Yeah, and they have some guys in France who are damn good musicians.
Because we had a guy on the show last week. Wasn't Paul Spencer on the show last week?
That he was.
And he has it's called the
Maverick Festival, which is kind of an Americana festival in Suffolk, England. And I actually told them about you guys, and I told them about Lost Bayou Ramblers. I told them to get a Cajun band on this thing would be a really cool thing, because now you have kind of a subset of Americana, that he's not, that would feel, I would think, uber authentic to these guys who are from England, who like to wear like a cowboy shirt to the festival, and they keep it in their closet for this one festival, and never ever wear it. But I think they'd get a kick out of that, and so yeah.
But those
Paul knows.
cowboys were English, weren't they? No?
Actually,
When you think about it,
they say that the Cajuns were the first cowboys in America.
the Cajuns were
Yeah.
cowboys.
Who says that? The Cajuns?
Yeah, the Cajuns actually.
But when you see John Wayne and those guys back in the day, whenever that was, when people were riding around on the prairie and so on, weren't those guys English? Didn't they come here from England? I mean, where else did they come from?
Germany and
Well, even funnier.
yeah, I mean
John
Ireland.
Wayne actually had a German accent.
I heard that there were a lot of French fur trappers and traders traveling.
Well, that would
those
be
routes.
that would be good too. But no one actually spoke like John Wayne and Clint Eastwood.
Huh.
Correct? How come no one mentions that?
Maybe not.
Okay, we'll just move right along.
That's a really
from
good
there.
point.
It is a really
Thank
good
you.
point.
It is interesting, isn't it?
It took me a
always thought-
second.
I've always thought that whatever years that was, when they make those westerns, when was that supposed?
Like, when did the country twang come along?
Yeah, when did that come? Where did that come from? Even that twang,
Right.
that John Wayne drawl, and Clint Eastwood, that taciturn American,
America's pretty
cowboy.
young. What I love about New Orleans is that it's older than America.
Okay, who's calling you, Moon?
This is Kenna Moore. She was actually on the show last
Kenna
week.
was on our show. Was that last week?
Should I answer it?
Sure. See what she wants. What she's.
Let's see.
Can't believe she's
Reappearing on the
pestering
show.
you in the middle of. Put it on speakerphone. Put it up to the mic. So we can,
Hey, Kenna.
Hey, what's up?
I'm at Wayfare. I'm on the radio, and so are you.
No, okay. I was calling to see if you were going to come link up with you because I know you're in the city.
Well, I'll
Hey,
call you when I'm done at
hey,
5.
everybody.
You can say hey to everybody.
you tell-
Hey, why don't I just come over and have a drink with you?
There you go.
awesome.
That sounds great. We'll all be
She could
here.
buy us all a drink, actually.
Okay, cool. I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay,
That
bye.
was very nice of you. That's very. So you know Kenna from last week.
I do. We're
This is-
roommates.
You're roommates.
We are.
Oh, it's all
Nice.
coming together now. That's interesting.
Yeah, her and I just.
You and your husband and Kenna are roommates?
I don't live with my husband right now because he's in the military. So sometimes he travels a lot.
What does it mean he's in the military, so you don't live with him?
Well, when they get deployed to
Tommy's in the
places-
military. He lives with his wife and
He
kids.
is, but he's not deployed. So sometimes when they get deployed to other countries, wives can't go if it's a danger zone. And he just got back from around where Benghazi is in Italy, in
Libya.
Egypt. He was in Egypt, but very
Benghazi's
close.
in Libya, right? Isn't it?
He was very
But
close to the
it's
border.
Right across the border.
There's a border between Egypt and Libya. I didn't even know that. They're adjoining countries. Can you
Yeah, it
go
makes sense.
across the
So-
border?
So what she's talking about is an unaccompanied tour. Yeah, and so there's a lot of sacrifice there between the spouses. Sometimes when you talk about unaccompanied tours, you can't take your family with you, and so
So you get to live with Kenna.
Yes.
All right. That's not all bad, I suppose.
Not at all. We made a feature-length film while we lived together, her, my sister, and myself.
She told us about the film last week. It's called she was famous or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, we just
So what-
entered it into some festivals.
What was your role in the movie?
I helped her produce it, and I was the art director for the film. So anything visual, sites and locations and costumes and colors and moods and all that fun stuff.
Well, how cool.
All the
Okay.
art.
So what's your husband's name?
His name's Nathan.
Nathan. So where is he today, right now? While
He's
you're
in
here?
Mandeville, Louisiana. Mandeville, across the lake.
So when did he
We're
get
from
back
there.
from wherever the heck he was?
He got back in January, and then he was stationed in Georgia for a while, and then just moved back here like a week ago. He just finished his 6-year contract, so he's actually officially out of the military now about a month ago.
And how long since you saw him last? I mean, not today. I mean,
couple
before. Before he left. Well, how long was he away for?
He was away for a year.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
long time.
That is a long time.
It's great today with technology. I think a lot about like military wives, like way back when they didn't have Skype or.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't even. I mean, Afghanistan in the early days of the war. I mean, you just had letters, and the occasional maybe once a month you'd get to a sat phone, like a satellite phone. So, which I thought we were spoiled just because we had that.
Is
so.
it better to be in touch, or is it better to be like separated?
It's a really good question. It's
So,
hard.
I mean, for the it's tough, right? So for the
Yeah.
mission, sometimes it's better to be separate. You can focus on the mission,
Right.
But there's an element there to where when you get to talk to your wife, and you get to talk to your kids, you get to think about what you're fighting for. It just makes you that much more dedicated, to stay alive and to accomplish a mission. So it's kind of a balance. On my second tour in Fallujah, we had to figure out how many days can you push a man before you need to give him just some reprieve, because it's all about tempo in relation to the enemy. How hard can you push to keep the enemy off balance before your own men kind of reach that breaking point? And we kind of went during steady state operations. It was about 13 days. You push a guy for about 13 days and you give him a day off, and give him the opportunity to try to make a phone call if there was that capability, and he just comes back recharged. So. But if it's every day, if you had guys with access to information from back home on an hourly basis like we do here, then that's not necessarily helpful.
It detracts from the focus, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
What's it like then, Moon, when you're the person who's here and you have to? I mean, it's nice to make that connection, but then you have to hang up, and
Oh yeah, it's
I would imagine it might be easy just to not. be in touch.
It is easier. It's easier to not, and then it's also harder to not. It's such a catch-22 because you hang up and they're not there anymore, and then you're kind of like holding like a life together that doesn't exist. And I'm a painter, so I express a lot of that. Like with painting, I found like most of my paintings. It's crazy when I'm making them. I'm not really sure what they're about, but when I put them back up on the wall and step back, I'm like, oh, they're all like tragic love stories of like time, space, reality existing or not being present. And if someone's with you in your mind and you're thinking of them, like you can, you feel when you're in love, you feel that person's presence when they're with you. And then even when they're across the globe, sometimes you can feel something's wrong. And so I think it's different for every couple and how they communicate, but it's definitely a challenge. It was a lot for me to realize, like, when you say, like, thank you for sacrificing for our country, like, it's not just the people whose lives that, like, actually got lost. It's, like, a year of your marriage, a year of not being able to see your kids grow up. Like, it's quality time that's sacrificed in a lot of communication and kind of hard stuff that I think military couples go through that other couples can't really understand because you're...
Do you feel like you change in the year while he's gone and he's changed in the year?
Yeah, yes, and that's really difficult. It's like coming back together because you have to become such a strong person in your own individuality to get through, but then coming back together after and like re-meeting each other, it always makes you really nervous.
Yeah. Wow. But it's pretty cool though. I mean, it's like getting to date your wife all over again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of cool actually, Think about how many guys go through their life with their marriage, whatever, and they don't get to date their wife again, or they don't think about it. You're forced to do that.
Is it really like that, or are you just putting
goes a lot
positive-
faster?
Are you
Goes a lot faster.
Are you putting a positive spin on it, or is that really true?
No, I
what
mean it's
you're
actually
saying?
true. Like so because you have so much to catch up on. Now it's tough sometimes because you come back and especially now, I could imagine that back in World War II, the guys had they rowed a ship home, right, and they stopped off on however many ports and blew off whatever kind of steam and just got, sort of acclimated back to American
Syphilis?
culture.
Oh.
Hopefully not. But now you get on an airplane, and 24 hours later, you're in an American city when maybe before your life was at risk. So there is an element of kind of where it's easy to become distant from your spouse or from really anybody, even your family or anybody who just hasn't gone through that. But then at the same time, there is that you have that love for your spouse. So it's just kind of neat to be able to catch up on what you missed for like the last 6 to 12 months.
Do you ever think, you guys, that it's just a complete total waste of time and life and money? I mean, what are we actually doing
I
over
have
there?
tattooed on my back, "Make love, not war," and I stand
It's on your
by
back.
that.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay.
How
It's a
big is
radio
it?
It's pretty small.
Okay.
It's pretty small.
Tommy can take a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Let
you know,
directions.
just-
You
I
have that
won't-
tattooed on. Why did you have it tattooed on your back?
I got it whenever my husband had just left for Egypt, and I'm really don't like being involved in politics and stuff, but I really just don't like war. And as a military wife, like, I just, as much as you like want to support, I just personally, for me, just wish it didn't even have to happen. So I would like personally not have to lose the love of my life. But then you think of all the other good things that are happening from it and the people that they're protecting and those types of things, which
Well, I don't think we have a clue about any of that, frankly.
yeah.
Very few.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
don't know what's going on. Andrew, do you have a clue about what's going
Me?
on?
No. Tommy had something to say. What do you
Yeah.
It's
What's
hard to know what's going on, but even it's just the people coming back, regardless of what's going on and whether it's right or wrong. The fact is, we're still having like our men come home that are really shaken up about a lot of stuff, and
Yeah,
they
but
still need care.
for what reason is what I'm saying. Why would you put
Probably
you
not a
through
great
that and
one.
you through that,
Right.
Tommy? Why put all your families and all these people through that? Thousands of people. What are we actually achieving over there?
So we're probably going to need to order another round,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
I will,
okay.
which I will cover,
Man.
because what we're about to get into could, depending on how long you want to get into it, get very depressing.
Well, that's why we have alcohol.
We got time.
But it will be the truth.
We
And
can
so
always have.
depending
Should
on
we
how
have a
this
song
goes-
first?
Why don't we do
Why
that?
don't we- okay, we'll get it.
Why
Why
don't we
don't
do a
we
little
play the
song?
Sarah can play something
While
for
we play
us.
the song,
Because-
I'll go get the round.
Andrew, go get the
Wait,
drinks.
you're not going to sing with me?
Yeah,
Is it the
yeah,
song
yes,
that I
okay.
can sing on? I don't know.
Well, Catherine can get. Catherine King is taking photos here, so we'll make her go.
Let's do it,
Because
Andrew.
Graham, our producer, is for some reason not here.
She'll do the song. I'll grab the drinks.
You're going to grab the drinks.
Yeah, I'll be
but
right
you
back.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so
Okay.
what's everybody having?
I'll have a Guinness.
Guinness. Are you on your second pint of Guinness?
Just my,
I was
well,
having
this
a
will be
green
my
flash
second one.
IPA,
Good
but
work.
any beer is fine.
Flash IPA.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll do the
Okay.
same. I start.
2 Guinnesses, Green Flash IPA.
I'll have a soda water with lime and bitters, please.
Don't pay for anything.
Okay.
Don't pay for it.
So we're going to go here, Andrew.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure where here is.
Sarah
but we'll
has a
So
try it
beautiful
out.
excited.
looking electric guitar
Can you hear
here.
my guitar?
Not yet. We will once we move a
Is that
few
too loud?
mics around.
Is that good? Like that? So this song is to extend compassion to all the suffering victims of war, wives, military people, their children, and those of our so-called enemies as well.
Amen.
It's a folk song that Andrew and I used to sing together that I think I can remember. Is that too loud? That a little book was given to me, and every page spells liberty. Oh, my trials will soon be over. Oh, my trials will soon be over. If religion was a thing that money could buy, then the rich would live and the poor would die. Oh, my trials will soon be over.
Hey, nice.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Thank you.
That's all Sario.
Andrew Duhon and Sarah Quintana back together again. Very nice. When did you guys used to play that together?
Well, we got together to try to like play some songs, bounce some songs off each other, try to write some songs together, and we
wrote
also
a
had
couple.
yeah.
Good Old Fashioned Goodbye.
Old Fashioned Goodbye was a beautiful song. I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know why. I think I had gone
sang
on
it a few times. It works great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful tune.
Did either of you record that?
That's Sarah's tune. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's fairly
but it's
fairly
very
fresh.
cute.
Yeah.
yeah.
Lots of like lyrics, song lyrics, and thinking about words and arrangements.
Is it bitter
So
and
lucky.
depressing?
No, it's really nice to get together with other songwriters and talk about the craft.
I don't
and
mean working with Andrew. Is it bitter and depressing? I mean, is the song?
No,
that particular one?
Yeah.
No, Good Old Fashioned Goodbye is about like
Sweet.
wanting to just die happy and have
Die happy.
I think
a
I
great
think
It's an upbeat.
time.
if I was to guess, Sarah might have been in a place of leaving, maybe, and this idea of like a good old fashioned goodbye was like
A clean break.
Yeah, a clean break. Like let's not drag this out. But it was also kind of lighthearted and nice and like, yeah, this is gonna be tough, but it's like a lighthearted, downhearted song. It's kind of lovely.
We should give him a line.
Please.
Bartender, leave the bitters on the side. Won't you leave the bitters on the side? All I want is whiskey and a toast to the good times. I'll have a good old-fashioned goodbye. Something like that.
Oh, that's pretty cute, actually.
Wow,
Nice.
I love
yeah, okay.
it. You need to record that.
We will.
And then yeah,
Tons
now
of
you
songs.
reminded me like the sentiment, like the good old fashioned goodbye. It's her song, it was her idea, but that idea I love, the good old fashioned goodbye in terms of not only just the cocktail, the drink, but the idea that now with all this technology, we kind of forget how to lose touch, even if that's what we want to do, you know?
That's what we were just talking about, actually.
Right.
Don't need pretty flowers by my side.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, gets heavy sometimes.
Yeah. Andrew's just such a fantastic songwriter, and I'm such a fan of his music.
Sarah is one of the most musical beings in this
true.
city. That's true.
Oh.
We're
Let's
gonna,
play a show together sometime.
Well, we're going to make
Oh my
Andrew
God.
play a song in
Oh
a little
my
while.
God.
Maybe you can sing along with that one.
Sure. I'll snap and hum.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting because both of you, I mean, you managed to sing that song during that sort of weird syncopated crashing
I'm
You know
noise.
used
what's
to playing
funny?
with
What the
like
hell
sing
was
glasses.
that?
It almost sounded like, what's that called?
Syncopated, like.
What was actually going on during that? Was someone?
Somebody was
Like a
banging on
clav.
something, but it almost sounded like clave or
I
something.
got into
Yeah.
it.
but it
Well,
wasn't
that was
quite.
I
great
have
that you
good
could keep going through
cocktail
it.
karma from playing on Frenchman Street too much.
Right.
So, Sarah, what do you bring back from France for people as a gift when you come back?
Well, this last time I was kind of naughty, and I just got gifts at the airport, and I got really nice olive oil. And they
Okay.
changed the customs in Chicago, and they make you actually leave the airport and then go back in. And this woman took my olive oil from me
no.
because it was too big, and I had to really practice loving kindness meditations because I was super bummed. It was like a 30
Hang
euro.
on a minute. Wait.
Non-attachment.
Yeah, it was like-
non-attachment.
Wait up.
Oh my goodness! And I bought it in the airport,
That's
so it was
exactly what I was going to say. You
duty-free.
bought it at the airport,
Apparently, you have to get a sticker on it.
but they didn't tell you that. They don't say where are you going. I'm going to the US.
It was for
You
my
need a sticker.
mom, right?
What airport were
I
you
was
at?
like,
At
and then
all the
I was
airports
talking
in
to her. I was
Paris.
like, "Can you please give it to your mom? Because I hate to throw it away." And she was like, "I'm sorry, that's not our policy."
That's exactly what you did. She kept
I hope
it.
she did.
But that's crazy. If you're buying it at the airport, they normally tell you at the airport, well, if you're going to take this into the United States, you're going to need X, Y, Z.
Well, I should be more thoughtful and buy my presents ahead of time and not at the airport.
Well, that still is a weird
Because there's
story.
so many things. Like you can buy mustard in France. You can buy all kinds of. You can even take cheese on
Dijon
the plane if you're into cheese.
Who's not?
cheese.
I'm not.
Oh.
You
I'm
don't,
into
Love
cashew
cheese.
and almond cheese.
what is
Got
that?
it.
Are you a vegan?
I am.
So you can't eat anything with milk, dairy, or any kind of dairy.
Well, I could, but I don't.
Well, you could. Yes, it's not illegal, but you choose not to.
Yeah,
so you
for
have
the
to make.
most part.
So you have to make cheese
Yeah,
out
I
of
really
what?
don't.
Out of almonds and.
There's just so many fantastic recipes. Right now, I'm really into
Let's not
making my own
strictly-
coconut milk. You just get some coconut flakes and you put them in a blender, and then a little maple syrup and a pinch of salt, and it's like delicious and fresh in your coffee.
So that's instead of milk.
Yeah.
So your coffee
Basically,
tastes like
I don't
coconut.
preach, but come over and eat at the house, and you'll just like have a great
Okay,
time.
what's your address?
Okay,
Why
I'll
don't-
tell you after
why
this
don't you do
show.
a
Okay.
vegan song house concert series, where you introduce
Yummy.
people to your songs and your
diet.
cuisine.
Well, I don't have to preach. Like,
Well,
it's
yeah,
coming
not-
around. I think the World Health Organization just put out something about
Well, meat is
prostate
carcinogenic
cancer
now.
and-
You're not allowed to eat meat because it's going to give you cancer.
And also, cows are really awesome.
But it's not
And they
really
have
about preaching, right?
personalities.
It's about sharing. You know, you found this thing that you believe in, and just share it as well as your music. It's like a double thing, maybe.
It's sensitive. People are really attached to what they are comfortable. Like, for me, it took me a long
Yeah.
time to let go of eating Cajun food because my family's Cajun, and every once in a while I would, like, for example, theoretically eat catfish on Christmas Eve that my dad caught.
Theoretically.
And I love oysters, and there's just like a lot of good things that oysters do for our economy and ecosystems in the Gulf. I believe in incremental change. Even if you decide to, eat one meal a day vegan and then go home and eat your regular stuff, like, that's awesome.
Check out this.
Yay!
We might just need to talk about oysters.
Tommy
for a minute.
Waller
I
is
do love
the
oysters.
Tommy Waller is the inventor of the oyster bed,
Stop.
which you're looking at right
What?
here.
Wait,
Yeah.
what is that?
So, well,
Come on.
It's a
technically,
barbecue
my
tray.
brother is really the guy with the ideas.
Oh, cool.
But that's actually how Grant and I met. We were doing a radio show about the oyster bed, and it's funny that you mentioned the ecological benefits of oysters. You're absolutely
They're
right.
the lungs of the ocean, and when they harvest Louisiana oysters, they don't dredge, so they don't destroy other ecosystems, and they're non-sentient, so they don't feel pain in the same way that a fish does.
So we're-
Oysters don't feel pain.
They may, just as a plant may, but the point is to try to cause less suffering, not more.
What causes pain? Is it
central
is it a
nervous
brain?
system.
It's a central nervous system. So if you don't have a central nervous system, you don't have any pain. So does an oyster have a brain or a central nervous system?
They're
That-
non-sentient, but we don't
Non-sentient.
know.
What does
I mean,
that
we
mean?
have
They're
evidence
growing.
that plants can feel pain.
We have evidence.
Well, for example, when cows
Really?
eat grass, they produce a chemical. They produce a type of arsenic, and they go into shock. And it's like
What
all
does?
of the grass tells the other grass, "Hey, we're getting eaten. It's time to freak out." So, like, plants definitely have
What's grass going to do?
responses.
It's not going to run away.
Wait a minute, but is it would that be evidence of the grass feeling pain, or evidence that grass is evolutionarily adapted to survive, and that's it? Just a defense mechanism.
Well, they're probably related. And I
Certainly.
think it's up to you to decide, like, do I do less harm by eating a plant-based diet, or
Oh yeah, well that's easy.
not?
But I'm just thinking the grass, just in the grass sense.
But we could imagine that the world has a soul, and that things like plants
Totally feel
and
that.
animals are like part of what make us alive too, and that we need each other.
Well, you know what
What
is
if you don't eat plants? What do you eat?
Well, my dad is a hunter and likes to kind of mess with me about this. So he started an organization called Plants Have Rights Too, and the acronym is FART. And he's definitely like, I think
Has he
if you
got a
have certain
Facebook
sicknesses,
page?
you have to eat meat. I don't think it's about doing anything that's not for the best of your health. If it's in the best interest of your health to eat meat because you have had a surgery and stuff, like, eat meat. Just eat less
I agree.
and eat it thoughtfully.
Thoughtfully is the key. Mindfulness.
And if you can't eat plants, can you drink beer? Or, like, what does that mean? Because beer's
Well,
made
beer's
from
made
I'm out.
Beer is a plant too.
out.
Yeah,
So
we
this
need
is
to eat
all
plants.
mighty new. It's all new to me because I'm like in the Marine Corps. It's usually like you refer to a guy as like a meat eater. Like, that dude's a meat eater.
What does that
he's
mean?
Like,
Is that a-
like he's hardcore?
That's
you
good.
know, like he's a good dude, right? So
T-Rex.
it's good. You're educating me a little bit. I think we have a commonality on oysters. It's going to take a
Let's
while.
start there.
It's going to take a while for me to not want to be a meat eater.
Well, it's like the
You know what I mean?
imagination. I like, for example, my dad's cousin is really into hunting, and when he gets excited talking about chasing a deer and killing it, like, part of me is sad, like Bambi, but part of me is really happy that he's happy about something.
Right,
And I
imagine-
think you can keep
There's
the
a lot of
value
things you could be
system
happy about than
associated.
killing innocent deer, isn't it? I mean, that's
Well,
really.
well, I
Okay.
think you can
Unless you're
keep the
gonna eat
value
it.
system without the suffering.
is-
For example, tofu.
Aha.
Okay, but wait. What,
So
you go ahead, Tony.
No, all I was going to say is I think that what you were imagining of him being happy chasing that deer.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in a man that gets excitement about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're in a spot with civilization today where we have the luxury where we don't even have to do that. Where before it was,
Right.
you had to do that to survive, right? And some of that residual is still there in some of us men, where we want to keep doing that, even though we don't need to survive. So
Well, I think women have it too. Like, Jung talks about the anima and the animus. I think we're also just getting beyond gender roles with that. We all have, like, those fight instincts. That's why we're all passionate lovers.
No, not all of us.
It's just
but
about
yeah,
using that energy in the appropriate setting. Instead of harming, give pleasure to your lady.
There's no disagreement.
Nice.
there.
Who said okay?
I did.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say before
Yeah,
Tommy.
sorry, yeah.
Oh, right. No worries. So here's the thought. I think sometimes maybe there's like elements, there's variables at play that we forget about, such as, the invasive species of the wild boar in the South, These are things that are ruining a lot of ecological elements. So what do we do about that? To me, the solution has a lot to do with pain. You have to kill a lot of animals. Do you have a better idea?
I definitely do, because my dad's a hunter, and the way that they all describe the annual reports of the wildlife and fisheries is that to maintain populations and so that we can have a healthy balance, certain species need to be hunted off. But that I feel like that's really unrelated to like the 80,000 veal cows that are polluting our rivers and streams. And
Totally
I don't
agree.
even have to use global warming to say, just like check out the water quality here of the Mississippi River, the dead zone, and how that relates to agriculture.
Yeah. I read a really interesting article about a chef in New York who is using or implementing a menu based exclusively on invasive species. So it's like, come in, eat some lionfish, come in, eat some wild boar. So
idea.
cool.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Well,
So
I read
awesome.
something too about like the meat industry. To sustain all these cows that we have that are growing and eating, we need so much plants. And really, if we would stop feeding all the plants to the cows and start feeding the plants to the other people, we'd be able to solve world hunger. So I think that's kind of the goal with meat, is if everyone just ate less of it, there would be less of all these cows that needed.
You know what? Years and years ago when I met Sarah, I couldn't have thought for a second about like a day without a piece of meat. And these days, I don't know what turned me to the idea, but eventually, I tried, a thing or two, or what it was? It was the challenge of cooking something without meat. And I like to cook. And then I realized when you look at a menu and there's all these things like cheeseburger and chicken sandwich and then a veggie option, like a veggie for burger, if they made the veggie burger, or a vegetarian option, I know that they think the same thing that I'm thinking when I'm trying to cook it. It's like, oh, this is a challenge. How do I make this delicious? And oftentimes, it's the most delicious thing on the menu because they had to try. They didn't just think like meat, grill, done.
If the choices were cheeseburger and veggie burger, it might be.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm simplifying things.
Why would you choose anything but the best?
True. And like I never would have thought that. Now I kind of enjoy the challenge of cooking it, and I also enjoy the opportunity of eating it, because I do, like, as you hear, I have different ideas on I like a lot of the things that you're saying, but as you say, incremental. So I'm incrementally coming your way, Sarah, but I think I love a good piece of meat sometimes, but I also love the feeling that I have when I cook like a lentil Indian dish and I have it and I'm just like, I'm like, couldn't be more satiated and like happy with this dish.
Is that because you went to India that you know how to cook that?
No, I just looked up the recipe, but I did use some spices that I got in India, which are probably way better than anything I could have gotten here. So yeah.
Okay. Hey, listen, tell me, we're going to get onto the whole depress. We have a drink.
Yeah.
We have
yeah,
a
we're
drink
gonna
so you
get
can
depressed.
depress
That's
us.
why we have drinks.
But you know what we have to do? First of all, we have to do these messages. So let's grab a guitar for a second. Do you want Sarah's guitar?
No. Sarah should play something.
Oh, Sarah, can you play something behind while I read these messages out? And then are you going to play something, Andrew?
I could.
Okay.
Or Sarah
So
can play another
afterwards-
one.
All right, up to you guys, or you can play one together. Our show is brought to us today by Petite Pet Care. If you're going out of town or you have a crazy schedule, the folks at Petite Pet Care will take care of your pet in his or her own home. For loving care when you're not there, you can go to petitepetcare.com and get hooked up. Also, thanks to Basics Swim and Gym, a full range of fashion swimsuits, workout and yoga clothes with style. You can find Basics Swim and Gym on Magazine Street near Jefferson Avenue. Thank you too to Hangover Destroyer, the only all-natural product medically proven to prevent or ameliorate a hangover. All you have to do is go to the Hangover Destroyer website. It's hdestroyer.com. and write the words Happy Hour in the coupon code, and you get 30% off of Hangover Destroyer, and you too can seize the dawn. Nice. Look at this fancy finger. Keep going. I got one more to go. Thank you too to unlistednola.com, the revolutionary new way to buy a house in New Orleans. If you know what you're looking for, you can find your perfect match before it comes on the market. It's the match.com of real estate. It's unlistednola.com, and the music in the background provided by the very talented Sarah Quintana, or in French, Sarah Quintana. Nice. What was that piece of music? You just made that up?
It's just a little turnaround.
That's nice. Very
Them
nice.
jazzy chords is
Yeah.
pretty.
Very groovy.
Do like
Okay,
them.
so how did you learn to play guitar? Did you teach yourself?
I did at the beginning because I was very shy, and I loved the guitar, and I would go to Plantation Coffee House and watch Davey Mooney play solo guitar when I was like 13. I had a huge crush on him.
On
And
who?
he's now married to a beautiful Brazilian woman and has a baby.
What's
and
his name?
And we do sets together. Davey Mooney.
Davey Mooney.
He's just a fantastic guitar player. He's like one of the quintessential New Orleans modern guitar players, but he doesn't really fit that mold very well because he's so New Orleans, and he's also a songwriter and just an innovator in so many ways. So he's kind of doing his own thing. But basically, I studied privately, and then I started singing in bands and just always pulling players on the side and being like, hey, can you teach me how to improvise over
How'd
this?
you
or
go
what are
from
doing
being
on here?
shy to singing in bands?
It's pretty funny. I wanted to pay for a yoga teacher training, and I needed some money, so money will make you do crazy things.
So you became a yoga teacher as well?
I did.
And you paid for that by singing in a band?
I did.
How
and
wacky.
then I just liked
Now you're a singer.
music, yeah.
Well, you still
Music is
teach
pretty
yoga
cool.
though, right?
I don't. I teach voice, and I use a lot of yoga when I teach voice.
What sort of yoga moves go with what, to change your throat muscles or?
Oh, it's
To
so
loosen up?
infinite.
Breath work.
It's breath. Oh my God, I don't even know how to get it.
Do you
I don't
need-
know
I
what
recently
should we
got
say?
yoga certified too.
Hey.
That's congratulations.
Hawaii.
You're-
Whoa.
Moon, you're a yoga teacher as well?
I just got certified a couple months ago.
Did you say in Hawaii?
I did.
Nice.
I went to the big island of Hawaii to this retreat center. It's beautiful.
Well, what does that entail, getting certified?
Well, I did an intense session, so it's like 5 weeks straight. Every day you wake up in the morning and you meditate, and then you do yoga and learn about yoga and the human body and the emotional body and all your chakras and subtle body energies. Learn about that every day for 5 weeks straight. But other times you can just kind of take a weekend course for about a 6 or 7 or 8 month
All right.
time period. But I like to,
What
like
kind of
extreme.
yoga are you teaching? Or
What I learned was
certified?
therapeutic yoga. So it was like yoga therapy where you learn all these different breath works and stretches and stuff that are going to heal your body. And
From
it
what?
is actually a lot about eating healthy. Well, yoga, it comes from the East, so it's very different than Western culture healing. Yoga is very like mind, body, soul, all in one.
Right. What
kind
can
of
you heal us
connection.
from? Though? Say,
I think
like disease?
perhaps I would say that your body knows how to heal itself, and that if you got in tune with it and in touch with it, I think anyone
Really?
would be able to heal.
You
certain
throw the
things
drugs
like-
away.
Absolutely. Pharmaceutical drugs are not beneficial at all. And I
Okay.
can speak for that. Like, I've been on antidepressants. My sister has experienced a lot of stuff with different pharmaceutical drugs because of mental illnesses. That I think in the West we label that a lot. And if you studied Eastern medicine with it and went to a different shaman, they would teach you a lot of different stuff about what might be going on. Personally, I believe someone with a lot of mental illnesses is just a really spiritually in touch being that's having a hard time in the current human condition. And of course they would be, because the current human condition right now isn't well. So I think artists are really sensitive beings that are kind of recreating and doing things to try to bring healing to the world. And we know things aren't right, and we are doing our best to fix it, but a lot of times it manifests itself in what can be labeled as mental illness.
So someone who's mentally ill is just more sensitive to what's going on.
I
and
believe
more
that, yes.
affected by it.
I believe that.
Phillipe does not agree with that.
No, I
Phillipe.
do not.
What
I
do-
actually had, you said keep the phones on. I just had a friend call me who's in a mental institute right now, and he's schizophrenic. And due to also taking a lot of hallucinogenic drugs when he was younger, it kind of amplified his schizophrenia, and tried to murder some people, and yeah, it was very, very intense. I talk to him often, though. He's a childhood friend of mine, and he's better now because of taking certain drugs and having proper care now.
Well, Moon,
But
could
I
he-
think what she's saying, there is some truth to that. I think like depression and something like depression is very much a real thing, but I think sometimes you just have to change your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
But, yeah.
And more what I'm saying is pharmaceutical drugs, it's going to cover like the symptom of what's going on. And a lot of times some people can be a danger to themselves and society, but the root of the situation might be a spiritual aspect, and I'm a spiritual person, so I look at things from that root and then have that manifest itself physically in our bodies and in our minds.
Yeah, I think there is some truth, but like manic depression and schizophrenia is very.
It's a different order from taking antidepressants.
I don't think.
They're all different. Yeah.
I think I wouldn't say like being healthy and doing yoga would definitely help those people, but it won't cure their mental illness. Excuse me.
So so what you said, Moon, that you took antidepressants because you had anxiety or whatever it was.
I actually got diagnosed with PTSD and bipolar and depression. But I think that it was
on the same day.
Different times. I don't really claim those things. It was really all in reaction to my husband's deployment.
Right.
And so it was still for me. It was an environment. I think maybe an environmental thing.
That's a pretty high price to pay for your husband going off.
I mean, it is, and I think that leads us back into what we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier.
Well, it's back to depression, which is what
Tommy.
Tommy's going to depress us completely, which is why we will have another round of drinks, which we're quickly getting through.
No,
so what order should we do?
I would have to agree though on the treatment of humans with pharmaceuticals and all this. These companies that are there to make money more than they are to help people. There's a lot to be said for naturopathic and homeopathic medicine.
Absolutely.
Acupuncture.
Absolutely.
That's my family, that's all we do. I mean, and we know so many people who've been healed even from significant mental illness. Mm-hmm.
From taking homeopathic medication.
That's right.
So you don't believe in
well, look,
big pharma
there's
type
probably
drugs.
look if believe me, if I suffered a significant casualty and was brought to the emergency room, I'm going to absolutely embrace the care that institution provides me, right? But when providing a choice for a sickness or an illness or whatever, my first default is going to be what's natural that God created.
Okay,
right?
so there's an interesting sort of paradox or whatever the word. What is the word that I'm looking for? Paradox. Dichotomy. That on the one hand, that you say that you're super conservative type person who will only consider eating meat and wouldn't consider being a vegan, or it's craziness.
No, I wouldn't say I wouldn't consider that.
But on the
I
other
like
hand,
being known as a meat
but
eater.
on the other hand, you
Just tell people
you
you
have
eat meat, but
your
don't.
your first
totally.
your default position is alternative medicine.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think
Well,
meat is natural too.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, my perspective on the meat piece would be that Genesis chapter 1, where the Lord said, this is the earth and you'll govern it. And
we're already in a worldview that's
so-
Cartesian, where animals and plants don't have soul. If Genesis is our reference for everything.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, that's a big word. You're
why-
talking to a Marine. I'm not sure
Well, I
what
guess what
Cartesian
I'm
means,
saying
but
is that there's a system of thought that we're subject to that comes from the Middle Ages that says we have dominion over the earth, and it's really linked to these Christian ideas that
Okay.
plants and animals aren't beings with souls, that we're the only ones that have souls.
okay. So, and the problem with plants and animals not having souls.
I guess it's about respecting them, and I
Yeah.
definitely
You mean it's easier to
think-
kill something if you don't believe it has a soul or feelings?
Yeah.
certainly.
I mean, it'd be
Yeah, I
like,
know that.
That's why
I
some
think the
humans
question is
kill
about
other humans.
slavery. Like, how did we enslave people? And how are we enslaving so many other beings?
So yeah, I mean, and all of these things can bring us back to the original question that Grant had, which is why? Why are guys deploying?
Why are we
Why are
doing
we
it?
having to? Why are we
Why
defending
don't we all
ourselves?
just
That's what I
stop?
wanted to hear from you.
Why
actually.
do?
So it's the unfortunate thing is that I think very few in not only our nation but the Western civilization, if you will. And when I say Western, I mean those that would embrace democracy and what the founders provided in the way of life here in America. Very few understand exactly what it is that we're fighting. And I can tell you that because in my job, it's what I study, my other job,
What is your other job?
with the Center for Security Policy. And so, kind of like what Andrew mentioned before, I mean, so he absolutely appreciated the spice that you got from India, right?
Sure.
That's an illustration of what, just hundreds of years ago, there were people in Europe who wanted to go to India to get the same spices. And let's just rewind the clock a little bit. If we talk about the the conflict that we're in right now. So Moon's husband just got back from a place that was not far from Libya, right, from Tripoli, in fact, where Marines landed a couple hundred years ago. It's in our Marine Corps hymn that we played this weekend during the birthday ball. Yesterday was a 240th birthday of the Marine Corps. You look back, you rewind the clock, and you think, so, why were Marines fighting in North Africa at that time? Rewind the clock even more. Since the year 622, people in Europe and North Africa were in conflict, okay, against what we consider now the global jihad movement, jihadists. And that movement...
622.
622, the year that...
I thought Muhammad only wrote the Quran in like 650 AD or something.
He migrated to Medina. It's called the Hijra, the Great Migration, in the year 622. And that's where jihad began. And that's a whole long... We don't have enough time to study and talk about that entire scenario. But from that moment to today, there's been violence against those that don't believe. And what happened is that conquest took all of North Africa and much of Europe to the year 732, the Battle of Tours, where Charles Martel turned the tide and began to fight south. The Spanish, they struggled for 781 years until 1491 with the Treaty of Granada to finally expel the Islamic Empire. And so you think about, like, why did Christopher Columbus sail west? Like we're taught in our school books, because, he thought the earth was round. He wanted to find a shorter route to the Indies to get the spice that Andrew talked about, right? No, he didn't have a choice. The Mediterranean was still governed by people doing violence to anyone else. And so the big picture here is that, unfortunately, our nation and policymakers, very few of them actually understand what's at conflict with us. Okay?
I'm waiting for you to explain it. So what is the conclusion to all this? You're saying that there's going back hundreds and hundreds of years.
That's right. It goes
there's
back.
An Islamic
jihad goes back to 622
against the world. It goes back to 622.
To 622
before there even was Islam.
To Medina, right? And so there's a profound lack of understanding from our policymakers of what we're up against. So what we do is we sort of put Band-Aids on this problem, and it's
but where does this theory of yours come from?
Well, it comes from history. It comes from...
No, but where did you get it from? Did you just figure this out?
I learned it in my job.
Who taught you this?
But
this is a pretty radical...
It is pretty, right? I feel like we had the golden era of Islam where mathematics and geometry and art were flourishing, and all of this. A lot of those contributions are celebrated.
You should absolutely read about that and find out it was dimnitude. Dimnitude is the status of...
what?
It's the status of a non-believer under the Sharia or Islamic law. And so but do your own research. That's why I say, do your own research on those things known as the Golden Ages, Well,
what do you think about Wikipedia or, the general things that are available? Do you think that they're misinformed?
So Wikipedia is something that with the time and the resources can absolutely be made to read a certain way.
And this is sounding like a conspiracy theory you're saying there.
So that and that's
a conspiracy theory of everyone who contributes to Wikipedia,
not
which
at all.
Is a wiki.
Not at all. No. What I'm saying is that if you wanted to make a Wikipedia page read a certain way, you could have lots of people contribute certain things.
Oh, you can totally slant Wikipedia. I think there's a sort of a...
Right.
Isn't there a disclaimer on Wikipedia?
So I wouldn't...
Well, I feel like the ultimate question was, why is there war on the globe?
Yeah.
Generally, really far back.
Well, why are we going... Well, my question was, why are we, as a nation, sending your husband and you to war in far-off places for the benefit of which is difficult to...
Right.
Okay. To understand.
And this is what I bring it all back to. At the end of the day, what we should be willing to sacrifice for is this document. This is a copy of the Constitution that was given to me by the mother of one of my Marines, her only child, who passed away on my third deployment. What she told me, she said, Tommy, don't ever forget what it was that he died for, what it was that he was fighting for. Now, we can put everything else aside. What it should be is it should be in defense of a way of life that was created based on
Well, hang on. Can I interrupt you? There's a difference between fighting for something and fighting against something. Fighting for the Constitution, which you're holding in your hand, is one thing. That's something you're fighting for, something you believe in. Right. You're fighting against people who allegedly believe something too, equally as passionately as
you can put that
believe.
on the other side. There's another man standing against
Holding
you.
a mini Koran.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that's.
But is he any
it's a
different to you? I mean, is someone sitting at a table in Egypt or something saying the same thing about the Quran that you're saying about?
Very likely that.
What's the difference between his feeling and your feeling, and why do we have to fight each other about that? Why can't we just go, okay, you do whatever the hell you want, and I'll
It would
do
be
what I want?
nice. Yeah, it would be nice if we wouldn't have to. If we wouldn't have
But
to.
what's
worry
your
about fighting.
supposition is going back to 622? There's been some sort of subversive attempt at
Right.
people who are
what you have
Islamic
to do
to
you just
fuck
have
the rest
to-
of us up somehow.
what you have to do is you have to study the life of Muhammad.
Yeah, but I'm asking you this: is that what you're saying?
So
That
in
there's
622,
been a lifelong, hundreds and hundreds of years.
right. So what happened is the first 12 years of his life in Mecca, more than 300 different religions in Mecca at the time, all pagan, and so he preached for 12 years in Mecca, gained about 10 followers a year, and at that 12th year, his uncle, his protector, he was an orphan, unfortunately. He died. He lost his protection. He moved in what's called the Hijra, the Great Migration, to Medina. And in Medina, there were Jewish tribes that challenged his teachings. And I don't know how much time we have here to go through what those teachings are, but what he did is he said he called for.
It's going to change our life. We can stick around for another 5 minutes.
We can. I mean, it's significant to understand that story and to understand that once that migration to Medina went, that he started to call for the killing of non-believers, for violence against non-believers. And from that point forward, you've had violence against non-believers. Now, of course, people will say, hey, well, so does every religion, right? But anyone, let's say a Christian, for example, who did violence on behalf of his religion, he wouldn't be living.
Say the Crusades, for example.
Wouldn't be living in according to the example of the founder of that faith, right? And so that's kind of the key difference, right? So that's kind of
what you're saying
Okay.
is the reason why we're over there is because there's a lot of violence being done to the people and citizens of that place, and as United States, we're there to kind of protect the
that's part of
perhaps
it.
women and
But
children.
there was
That wasn't.
always also violence done to us. I mean, y'all obviously remember September 11th, but that's Thomas Jefferson went over to northern Africa, where we talked about before, to understand why it was what we call the Barbary pirates. Why were they attacking our shipping lines? And you'll hear sometimes, well, Thomas Jefferson had a Quran, right? So surely then he must have been Muslim. No, he had a Quran because he went and he asked, well, why is it that these pirates keep attacking us? This is what our book tells us to. And so it's important for us to kind of study that, and I'm not saying that we need to study it from a position of hate. We need to study it from a position of love of what we stand for, the peace that we want to have, but just to understand it, right?
I think there's some valuable things there, and I will take it from a place that's probably further along your line than I probably exist on. My opinion exists on, but my thought is, to me, it sounds like you're saying the book itself has flaws in terms of the code of ethics and morality that humankind should be adhering to. And sure, other books have had their flaws, but this book in particular is teaching people the wrong thing. But I would say one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard is, "Beware the man of one book." And I think any man of one book is dangerous. And
I couldn't agree more with you. Yeah, I mean, if you look at and on that point, you do the research and you look at how many books are translated into Arabic in the Islamic world compared to those books translated to other languages in other countries.
So it feels like
unbelievable amount.
That line starts to demonize this entire side of the planet. And I wonder, there's got to be a better way to go about this.
No, I think what it boils down to is just to try to understand the root of that violence.
But I suppose.
Well, I think the Buddha said life is suffering, and the root of violence is our nature. It's not like one group of people or one ideology. And I also think this is a huge population of people. And even though ISIS and all these things are a real threat, and even peace organizations are calling for military action because that's a last resort.
really
But unfortunately, it's serious.
Yeah.
I think even in that scenario, it's still a pretty small population of Islamic world believers, and a lot of those people are great people, like living in the south of France, Marseille, North Africans, Algerians, Tunisians, like friends in Ethiopia, just great people, great believers,
Look, I had
loving, devoted
interpreters
people.
that gave their lives for us, that were just unbelievably awesome people.
Well, what is the solution to this then, given that this is, suppose that we buy into your idea and we agree with you, say, for argument's sake, that this has been going on for 4 or 5, whatever, how many, what is it, how many, 1,000, 2,000 years now?
Since 622.
Since 622, that there's been a conspiracy or an organized train of thought based on the Quran to do away with everybody else who's not Islam, okay? Okay, suppose that's really true, which I don't know whether that is or not, but suppose it is. So what do we do about that?
Really, what it comes down to is those people not wanting to believe that they should do violence against others.
Yeah, but what do you think we should do? What is the United States' response? And we can't kill everybody. We can't kill billions of people.
Not.
So what's the solution?
It would take a whole lot longer than this radio show to talk about it.
With love, all things are possible.
Love
No,
and
I
miracle
think
and
you're right.
angels.
You know, so it's all about
Why not?
understanding it and understanding it from a position of love.
Well,
Just like
suppose
she
we
said.
understand it. I mean, we've understood what you're saying. What is the solution? I mean, is the solution
Well,
in a
that's
word?
like asking
is
for
it-
the solution of like how can we stop war in the world? How can we have
Well,
world
is
peace?
there
It's a big
is
question,
there a
Grant.
non-military
It's a big
solution?
There are tons of non-military solutions that unfortunately are not. None of them are being used right now.
What if we draw books?
Well, what about one? What about just telling us one before we get out of here?
Just education.
Right.
Just
Of whom?
education, well, of everyone in this country to know, for example,
Well, but
what,
suppose we
what
all
our,
bought
what our
into it.
founders,
Yeah, okay.
what they believed, okay?
We all know that pretty much.
Okay.
We get taught that in
Do we?
school. Don't we get taught that in school?
No.
The founding fathers.
Well,
and
what we just talked about why Christopher
Weren't
Columbus
they
sailed
slave
west.
owners?
So they couldn't, at the time that they founded the republic, they knew slavery was wrong. They knew it would correct itself. And eventually it did. And we fought a civil war. I mean, our country bled to fight against that barbaric act of slavery. And so that's often one of the things that is used to dislocate the faith in our people against what our founders really intended is, oh, they're slaves. And so all I'm saying is you know, at the end of the day, if we learn what those guys sacrificed so much to fight against tyranny a couple hundred years ago to form this nation, what it was they were fighting for, and we start to study what it is that others believe, whatever the brand of the enemy, it'll help us to understand the best way, hopefully a lot of non-combat ways. Because believe me, do I want to leave my children again? Absolutely not. You know, do I want to leave them to just go put a Band-Aid on something? No. Now I want my nation to kind of understand the value of what we have here, the freedom that we have right around this table to share beers. Like we can have an open dialogue and disagree, and we can talk about eating meat and vegetables, and we can talk about like pharmaceutical companies, and we can talk about homeopathic medicine.
Right.
And none of us are going to hurt each other, and that's awesome because there's like love around this table, and there's an environment that helps that continue in our country. Right? That's not an accident. I think what we need to do is we need to learn where that came from, and sometimes we're going to be called to defend it, and that's what Moon's husband's done. That's what I'm doing when I'm called to do. The wisdom to do it the right way is what I pray for personally every day. And if I had that right now, Grant, if I had that like God-like wisdom, I'd be able to answer your question. But I ask for it every single day.
Is that a good point to end on?
That was pretty nice.
Okay. Should we leave it there?
Let's leave it there.
Let's meet back. We should continue this conversation. We've just really begun it now.
We
could-
just
we
began
need
it.
we need another hour.
We do need another
I feel like we need somebody
Well, can you
from
play
like
the theme music and then we'll just keep going or
Algeria
something?
here,
We'll
or-
just make it tomorrow next
know,
week's show.
Afghani woman.
I know.
We need what? Sorry, Sarah. What?
Just some perspective on the situation from different sides. The only
So who would-
countries I've been to in North Africa are Morocco, and you know, I just had a
wanna
great
go to
time.
Morocco with you.
I'm a woman traveling alone. I didn't feel. I know it's one of the more liberated countries, and they're.
Morocco was actually the first country to recognize the United States. Can you believe that?
But
Yeah.
then there's also stories in other countries about like colonization, Algeria, and the war in the 70s and all of that. And there's a lot of mixed feelings, but
Yeah.
Well, I think
The one
too,
thing-
like
I
you
don't
gave
know.
a really like religious, spiritual answer, and I didn't really want to bring this up, but aside from the fact of like just maybe our government being a little
Military industrial
fucked up and just wanting like oil and gas money, like there's all of that stuff
Yeah.
too, like the
Yeah, think
bankers
about-
that are funding wars, like funding both sides of it.
I think extraterrestrials are running the United States since World War II. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know
Yeah,
if I
I
actually
got
think
you.
that, but it could be true.
Nah, Moon's got a good point.
Yeah, but
imagine
not to be
imagine if we turn
completely-
back to like to just the most
It's
pure,
greed and it's pride
yeah.
and it's ego.
Exactly.
And
It's all
that's-
evil.
It's simply
It's all
like
evil.
fear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Not-
really
no
not a
love.
cynic, but I mean, how many countries do we have bases in?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Well, and
There's a
we're
whole-
not the only
Like, why
country
are we in
Egypt.
Japan still, and why are we in Germany? That's some questions I would like to
We're in like I
be
think,
answered.
a lot of countries, and we're not the only countries in Egypt and Afghanistan. There's New Zealanders
have to
and
do another radio
Australians
show.
and
Well, geopolitics
so.
is not that complicated. I mean, it's just about power. We
Yeah.
we want influence.
we want to be everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's look, it's not an easy nut to crack. It's like, you want influence and you want prosperity and you want these things. You want to, drive your car with whatever cheap gas you got. I mean, America, there's so much, and it all what it boils down to is what Moon said: greed. If there were a way that that humans, that Americans didn't have that greed, and we want to just look at the entire playing field without it, it'd probably change how we see the world, right? So. Maybe we need to do another radio show. I don't know, Grant, but I appreciate this opportunity.
Well, that's been really interesting. 60 minutes.
I think we all want the same things.
I think
Yeah, I
probably
think
everybody in
that's
the world
Yeah.
wants the same thing.
I
Nobody,
think we all
nobody
have the
wants
same
to
qualities,
be,
and it's not like the enemies out there. Gandhi says, "Be the change you want to see in the world."
Mm-hmm.
What's the other side thinking, Tommy?
Which
Are
one?
they thinking the same thing? The people who we're fighting against
Which one?
since
Would it be like
622?
would it be Putin and Russia, or would it be Chinese? I mean, there's
We've got plenty of enemies.
we really do.
I do think there are evil people out there, unfortunately. Like
Yeah.
there are men who really
David Vitter.
I don't know him
one.
personally.
I went to high school with his son.
You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
and he's great. His son's a great guy.
So David Vitter's not evil, really, then?
I don't know. For some reason,
pretty
he
close
keeps sending
to
me
it.
emails, and I keep trying to unsubscribe, but they keep me on their email list. It's really awful.
You're on the David Vitter? Well, now this is what
I
they...
don't know how they got my email. It's like change.org and then David Vitter. It's really weird.
Change.org?
Yeah,
They
I'm
want
on
to-
all these political email
I
lists.
personally believe that there's nothing wrong with putting a diaper on and paying somebody for sex and having them change that diaper for you, just as long as you're not in,
Not a U.S. senator.
Exactly.
I have nothing
Yeah.
against it either.
Yeah,
I'm,
and
my
not
only,
to- and
my
not
only
tell me
opposition- not
that,
you can't do it.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
I
You
don't
know,
know
the guy
what you're
doesn't
talking
deserve
about.
Hypocrisy.
It's
Because I don't have a TV. But as long as you're not hurting anybody, right?
Exactly. He just wanted his diaper changed.
I think if you're going to do that and you're prepared to say that should be legal for everybody, then I'm voting for you.
Yeah, sure.
But if you're going to tell me I'm not allowed to do it, but you're allowed to, and you're going to be a U.S. senator or the governor of Louisiana, I don't think so. That's what I call bad.
That's yeah.
So we'll see. By the time, when is the election, by the way? Any day now.
Early voting is this
I do
week.
not know.
Me
Yeah, it's
neither.
this week.
It's some,
So-
I think it's
It's pretty soon.
In the 22nd, maybe.
yeah. Okay. Hey, listen, we're out of here, everybody. We've got to go.
We'll end on that one.
Thank you.
That was happy hour. I was looking for a high point to end on. I guess that was it. Thank you very much to. You can find links to all these people on our website. It's neworleans.com. To Moon, to Tommy Waller, to Phillipe Billeaudeaux. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
From Feufollet, to Sarah Quintana, and Andrew Duhon, of course, as well. The producer of our show is Graham DePonte. Our associate producer and technical director is Chris Kehoe. Christian Unruh is our music director, and our theme music was written by and is currently being played by Mitch Foreman. If you'd like to be on our show, you can drop us a line. Our address is on our website, where you can also check out many other happy hours, as well as some other shows we make here. Out to Lunch with Peter Asciuti, live from Commander's Palace. True to the Game with Chris True. Midnight Menu +1 with Margot Moss and the Man Who Ate New Orleans. Ray Canada, Louisiana Eats with Poppy Tooker. Milo's Music Parlor with Kim Vu, and the revolutionary new way to buy a house in New Orleans, Unlisted NOLA. You can keep up with us on Facebook and on Twitter and a bunch of other time-sucking social media as well, and all of it we're called It's New Orleans. You can find photos from this show on itsneworleans.com and on our Facebook and Google Plus pages. I can't even get Google Plus to open anymore. Have you tried that? I don't know what they did to fuck up Google, but
Maybe it's just your computer.
It might be me. The photos this week are taken by Catherine King. If you're listening to this show on iTunes or Stitcher or some other podcast app, thanks for subscribing. Take one moment if you can to rate and review us. It only takes you a second, and that does help other people find us. Our show is recorded live today at Wayfare on Ferret Street, where they put fine dining into a sandwich, fine booze into a glass, and have a fabulous lunch and brunch here every day of the weekend, which is only 2 days, so both days technically. Happy Hours of production, live broadcasting for itsneworleans.com. For Andrew Duhon, for everyone who helps around the table here at Wayfare and back at our office at INO, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Grant Morris. We'll see you back here next week on Happy Hour.
Yo, if we go to 7-Eleven right now, we can be back in time for the game.
I don't know, man. I don't want to miss kickoff.
Okay, but Red Bulls are 2 for $5 right now when I use my 7-Eleven app.
Dude, but kickoff.
But how are we going to stay on top of our game while watching this game if we're not on that 7-Eleven game?
I don't know. How?
Keep up, dude. 2 for $5 Red Bull with my 7-Eleven app.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, I'm feeling you now.
Thank you.
7-Eleven. Be game day ready. Plus tax where applicable. Valid at participating locations.